The image you are looking at is a composite of 3 different images taken by 3 very different cameras, using Photoshop as an editing tool. The first image is an image of the planet Earth taken by the Apollo 17 astronauts. The image is a full daylight, high noon view of the planet. You can see the continent of Africa in the upper left-hand corner. The second image shown here is actually 2 images. The image on the left taken by the Palomar Observatory. In the upper left-hand corner you see a square box. An enlargement of that square box is shown at the right. That image was taken by the Hubble Space Telescope. So I use these 3 images. By the way, the Hubble Telescope image I rotate 90 degrees clockwise before using it. This third image was taken about 15 years ago by me with a Minolta 35mm film camera. It was taken in Yosemite National Park, shows the rock formation, Half Dome, in the left-hand side. And it was taken about 15 minutes before sunset. Now, to begin, I will carefully select along the skyline. What I want to do is to remove the sky from this image using only the bottom part of the image showing the Earth. I use the polygonal lasso tool in Photoshop to do this selection. You can see here how I'm doing it. And I feather the selection with feathering of 2 pixels. I find that feathering really gives a more pleasing composition of images as an end result. This is an example of what you see after I put the 2 images together. The image of the Earth from Apollo 17 is a background image. The image from Yosemite on the top is indicated as layer 1. Now, actually what I do is I duplicate the background image to form another layer called the background copy, shown here for editing purposes. The layer 1 and the background copy images are visible as indicated by the eyeball icon on the left-hand side. I can, of course, make them not visible by clicking on the eyeball and making it go away. So here's what the composite image looks like. You can see that the image of the Earth using the Hasselblad film camera here is much larger than the image I have of Yosemite Valley. Now, to make the image of the Earth smaller and to position it where I want to position it in the composited image, what I do is first in the Layers palette I select the background copy image of the Earth, and in the selection menu I hit Select All, and then I type Command T, or if you're using an older Apple computer, Apple T. This actually selects the entire area of the layer of the Earth image, giving me a bounding box with the corners that can be dragged in order to resize the image. The image can also be rotated, and the image can be dragged to position it where I want to position it. So that's what I show here as that result after going through that process. Now, while I'm working with the layers independently, I decide that on the image Earth I want to increase the saturation just a bit. It's a little bit too washed out. At least the Sahara in Africa and the Saudi Arabia Peninsula is a bit washed out for me, so I increase the saturation, and you get something like this when I do that. Okay, now I'm going to look at the image of the nebula, and let's check that out. I'm not actually interested in the nebula. A point of information, this is the nebula NCG 604, nearby spiral galaxy M33. So it's a real Hubble Space Telescope image. So I use the clone stamp tool to start erasing the image of the nebula, or if you like, replacing it with the nice red background stars that I like so much. I retain only a slight wisp of the nebula. I'm afraid that the nebula will make the final result look too science fiction-y and will draw the eye away from the image of the Earth and the image of Half Dome in Yosemite Valley. So I want to take that away, just keeping the red stars. Now, I also need to resize the nebula because, as you will see here when I place it on the other two layers, the image of the nebula is much smaller than either of the other two layers. So I resize it just as I described earlier. I first select the layer in the layers palette. Then in the selection palette, I hit Select All. And then I type Command T, which allows me then to drag and resize the image. And then I want to put the layer of the nebula in the background, which I do by, in the layers palette, dragging it down so that it lies between the background and the background copy image. So this then enables me to put it in the background. And oh, by the way, on the Earth image that I copied from the Apollo 17, I selected the Earth out of the entire image so that the Earth is sitting on a transparent background. So I selected a copy of the Earth before I pasted it into the layer. Hope you understand what I'm talking about there. Now, one more thing I want you to look at here is that the image of the Earth, as I pointed out, is a straight-on image, while the image where the light is straight on, coming, if you like, from directly behind as you look at the image, while the light at Half Dome Yosemite Valley is coming from the extreme left, only about 15 minutes from sunset. The two lights are incompatible. I need to make them more consistent in order to make the image look more realistic. So I do that by, again, selecting the layer. Then I go into the filters palette and select render. So I want to render this selection, and within the render menu in Photoshop filters, I choose lighting effects. Then choose light type of spotlight and choose the style of flashlight. With some manipulation, then this will give me the result that I want. It makes it look as if the Earth is illuminated also by the sun on the extreme left-hand side of the image. So the composite image will now look something like this. You see the stars in the background, then the Earth lit from the left, and then Yosemite Valley lit from the left. And one final comment, that while you have the three layers there, you can go in and modify the layers separately and independently for printing purposes, because the prints have less dynamic range than you might see on a computer screen. You might want to lighten that Yosemite layer just a bit, for example, make it look something like that. In either case, you have freedom to choose what you find pleasing for your own personal taste. I hope to come back again soon and talk about how I worked with another image or how I worked with my camera to create an image. Thank you very much.